Beyond the Gates spoilers Monday, October 20th. Vernon's secret, Danny's sermon, Eva's enlightenment beyond the Gates spoilers for Monday, October 20th. Reveal some shocking news at Fairmont Crest. Vernon Dupree is hiding something, while Danny Dupree is being reprimanded. Plus, Eva Thomas suddenly realizes something. Find out more about Monday's broadcast below. The start of the week at Fairmont Crest doesn't begin with peace or grateful handshakes, but with the weight of a locked secret and the dry crack in the heart of someone who thought he knew his partner. Vernon wakes up in the dim morning light, a light that leaves everything in the house covered in a thin layer of memory dust. And he knows that today, his decision is no longer a delay. The papers were carefully hidden at the bottom of the safe. The health checkup sheet with numbers as calm as the surface of a lake but hidden in a swirling current. And a draft will he had written and rewritten as if to train his heart to not be there to weather the coming storms. Everything was approaching its deadline, and the truth was no longer a matter of whether he should tell it, but whether he dared to look Anita in the eyes when he told it. The contradiction tore at him. One half insisted that the secret was an act of protection for his wife from the legal storm that was about to swirl around the Dupree trust. The other half hissed like an accusation that it was a betrayal of the foundation of their marriage, where there had been a promise to keep nothing in the dark. And in the void of unanswered questions, Vernon felt caught between two pulls. One was the duty to be strong before the storm hit home. The other was the fear that he would be the one to open the first crack. Anita walked through the house with the intuition of a woman accustomed to smelling intrigue even in the scent of freshly brewed coffee, and her heart was unsettlingly restless. She didn't know the nature of the secret, only that Vernon's silences had been too long lately, his decisions too quick, and his gaze had been too averted whenever she mentioned the fund-related adjustments and audit reports. She remembered clearly the day they had sworn that if anything affected the family, they would face it together. Yet now it felt as if every decision was being made in a room she didn't have the key to. The anger didn't explode out loud. It seeped into every breath, making her every kind gesture doubtful even to herself. If the secret had been just a romantic surprise, a quiet celebration plan, she would have forgiven the cover-up. But if it touches the trust, if it's a will prepared without her signature, if it's evidence that his health is a silent battle unshared, then it's a whole system of beliefs that's been severed. Anita isn't afraid of numbers. She's afraid of places where hearts are left outside the door. While their home compresses like a storm-glass globe, Danny and Andre are left standing before their parents' mirrors, where they're both scrutinized by the expectations of a generation that believes love must come second to family honor to survive. Anita and Vernon's life lessons are like a lecture hall without walls or roof, only an air of judgment. Danny hears reminders of distance, of public, of how love can't be bigger than what they carry. Andre hears the Richardsons' boundaries, advice that seems gentle but is actually a soft trap that forces him to retreat lest he drag the family honor down. They both respected, but respect did not mean submission. Danny wondered why people who had fought to keep their love could so easily crush the love of others, or because they knew the pain of being hurt and wanted their children to stay away from those boundaries by building more barriers. The anger in her was not like fire, it was like stone, cold and heavy, pressing down on every cell, making her suffocate. To protect her honor or to protect her love, that question was not a choice, it was a sentence, because no matter what she chose, the other side would stand up and accuse her of betrayal. Andre was no better. He understood that every time he held Danny's hand in public, it was another brick in the wall between the Richardsons and the Duprees, and the question was not how high the wall was, but whether one day the two of them would no longer see each other through that wall across town. Where hotel ballroom doors opened and closed like secret eyelids, Nicole was suddenly struck by a romantic gesture that hit her where she was weakest. The memory of a long-starved trust. An unsigned bouquet of flowers, a song that played the exact melody she had once said she loved, a ticket for a short trip on the birthday she had deliberately hidden, all like an invisible hand pulling the chair from under her feet. Carlton might be the one to stir that sweetness with his always half a step ahead style, But Ted seemed to be the only one who knew her well enough to pick the right scar. Nicole hated being pushed into trusting, but her heart was as fragile as glass, and it took just the right touch to crack. She felt herself drawn to Ted by the old light of those rare days when he comforted her without words. But as her heart tilted, Leslie loomed like a warning beacon. If Leslie caught them, she wouldn't just go crazy screaming. She'd take the colder route. Legal, media, and all the traps a mother can set to exhaust her opponent. Worse, Leslie could ignore Nicole like a mirror, then turn her attack on Eva, turning her daughter into a psychological blow that would further puncture Ted's self-esteem, so that every time Ted defended Nicole, he heard his daughter sobbing in the back room. The price of a romantic moment could be a long winter of lawsuits, hearings, leaked calls, and Nicole knew that. To receive a bouquet of flowers, sometimes one had to be willing to hug a bush of thorns. Eva, at the edge of the drama, finally bent down to pick up the truth she had been avoiding for so long. Her mother did nothing good when she said it was out of love. She saw the cracks appearing between Leslie's plans and the justifications for them. Leslie talked about the family as a fortress, but she built that fortress with mortar of control and fear. Eva was afraid of herself, accustomed to closing her eyes when her mother pulled her arm, comfortable in being shielded from difficult decisions. Her anger was not directed outward. It was directed at her own heart, which had delayed maturity. If she warned Ted, she would be a traitor in the eyes of a mother who demanded absolute loyalty. If she remained silent, she would be complicit in a chain of actions that would crush innocent people. The realization came like a cold cut. She could not stand in the middle forever. Every step required a price she did not want to pay, but remaining still only deepened the debt. On that Monday, the city seemed to breathe with the heartbeat of those who were hiding or preparing to tell the truth. Leslie is noted for her storm-like buildup of energy, and anyone who pays attention will notice that she doesn't let her emotions get the best of her. She puts the pieces together with the patience of someone who believes everyone around her will make a mistake sooner or later. A chance photo, a hotel receipt with the right time, a midnight call to a number known only to 4 people, all recorded, placed together, and waiting for the right moment to snap her fingers. Ironically, Leslie's obsessive pursuit may inadvertently help Nicole see the structure of the trap. If everything around Ted is controlled, then his mistakes are no longer entirely free choices, and in a rare moment, Nicole sees clearly that forgiveness is a form of freedom she has long forgotten. Danny was caught between 2 camps. On one side was the sermon about keeping herself to protect the Dupree honor. On the other was the instinct to hold Andre's hand against any storm. She knew her parents' words were not entirely unreasonable. Every mistake she made was now being exaggerated in the media as a pastime for idle crowds. But she also knew that if she chose silence today, she would need to be quieter tomorrow, and by the time she realized it, she might have become a carefully edited, polished but soulless version of herself. Danny decided not to make a manifesto because she knew that eloquent manifestos could easily melt away under public pressure. She chose to act quietly, charting her own path of retreat if everything blew up, storing away evidence that she had not lied to her heart. Andre, quieter, threw himself into his work like a repairman repairing a broken bridge between 2 houses. But the more nails he hammered, the more he heard the old planks groan. Foreshadowing the day they would one day collapse, Vernon stood on the threshold of confession. He weighed each word as if it were a debt that would be repaid with the peace that remained. If the secret was health, he feared that Anita's eyes would break. If the secret was a will, he feared that her hands would grow cold. If the secret involved the foundation, he feared she would mistake him for the forces that wanted to strangle their family's freedom. But silence was a lingering cruelty. He imagined Anita reading those papers after the storm had struck, and that image was enough to push him out of his comfort zone. He couldn't promise that everything would be okay. He could only promise that he wouldn't leave her alone in the dark for another minute. Nicole, sitting in front of the unsigned bouquet, realized that the romantic gesture could be either salvation or bait. She was tired of trying to figure out what was real and what was tactical. She wanted to mute the world and listen to her heart, but her heart spoke in a language filled with fragmented memories. If it came from Carlton, it was a new promise, clean but unfamiliar. If it came from Ted, it was an old bridge replanked, still trembling in the wind. She thought of Leslie as she thought of a named storm. A storm that could tear any bridge apart with just a well-timed filing. So she understood, to love someone in this city, one had to learn to sign agreements without lawyers. Agreements that both would stand firm when the storm named the third person came. Eva stepped out of her mother's shadow in a small, decisive move. She reorganized the timeline. She told herself that from this day on, loyalty would no longer be measured by how much she stayed silent in the face of wrongdoing. She didn't know who she would call first, Ted or the family lawyer, but she knew that every minute that passed without her doing anything, someone was getting hurt unnecessarily. Resistance always had a price, but so did complicity. And if she had to pay, she chose to pay the truth. At the end of the day, no one really won in these battles. Vernon could tell the secret and lose some of Anita's peaceful gaze, but keep the chance to weather the storm together. Danny and Andre could lose their blessing, but keep a love that no longer breathed oxygen. Nicole could accept the bouquet and remind herself that all sweetness must be accompanied by vigilance, like someone walking in the woods listening for the crack of a dry branch. Eva can confront her mother and accept a cut in the family thread to avoid being strangled by it. And Leslie, no matter how sophisticated her plan, must face a new scenario. People who have only known defense are starting to attack with sobriety. And the city, does not care who is right or wrong. It only records everything as sediments of ambition and fear, so that on another day, when a new secret wants to rise up, it will remind that every conspiracy eventually leaves an echo in the heart of the person who has experienced it. At Fairmont Crest, Monday is just a name, but for those involved, it is a day when every blink of an eye can change the balance of an entire family. And in the whirlpool of doubt, anger, desire, and pride, everyone knows they are walking on a glass floor, with an abyss underfoot and a storm above. The only way is to keep breathing steadily and accept that sometimes, to move forward, one must trample on a few flowers that grow where they shouldn't. Thank you for taking the time to watch my video. All the content I make is just speculation and personal sharing. If you find the video interesting and useful, please support me with a like and leave a comment. If you have better ideas or more interesting speculations, please share them in the comments section for everyone to discuss. I appreciate all your contributions and support. Sincerely, thank you.